Egypt's population is facing the possibility of starvation and economic hardship if the Russia-Ukraine war goes on for too long. This is due to the halt of wheat exports from both countries, which Egypt is heavily reliant on to feed its large population. But how did Egypt find itself in this situation? Egypt is supposed to have some of the most fertile land in the world. It was a cradle of civilization. The Nile River supplied fresh water, and it had a reliable annual flood that covered the ground with nutrients. It was the perfect land for growing crops, and Egypt's geography came with other benefits. The Nile was essentially a highway built by nature. It allowed its citizens to travel and trade with ease throughout the country. And vast stretches of ocean or desert surrounded its core, protecting it from invaders. Civilization eventually sprouted up all across the world. Powerful rivals emerged, and technology advanced. Gradually, Egypt's geography as a defense became less effective, and its high food productivity in the Nile River Valley put it on growing empire's wish lists. The Macedonians, led by Alexander the Great, conquered Egypt in 332 BCE, marking the end of ancient Egypt. Modern Egypt's geography is pretty much the same as ancient Egypt's. The Nile and its delta are still the country's life source, but it's a different Egypt and a different world. Modern Egypt is not weak by any means, but it doesn't have the military or economic strength or cultural influence it once had. But can Egypt make a comeback? In this video, we'll take a look at its struggles, how it's fixing them, and how it might leverage its geography to once again be a powerful nation. But first, let me introduce you to a game where you can change the course of Egyptian history, Rise of Kingdoms. Rise of Kingdoms is a free cross-platform strategy game that combines real-time strategy with over 100 million players worldwide. It's available for thousands of players to experience the thrill of battling on the same battle scene at the same time. It's been available on mobile for 3 years now, and it has just launched its PC version. In Rise of Kingdoms, you can choose any of the 13 civilizations that have actually appeared in history, recruit hundreds of historical generals, train the special soldiers of each civilization, break through to the next era of history, collect resources, develop technology, and build your own dream city. And now, it's time for the mysterious, majestic Egypt to join the fierce ongoing war. This brand new civilization comes with powerful troops and sophisticatedly designed heroes, so that it can compete with 12 other civilizations and maybe take the upper hand. My favorite part of this game is, of course, the geography. I love games with large playable areas, and Rise of Kingdoms has 1.4 million square kilometers to explore. It has mornings and evenings, real terrain, and vivid city scenes that make you feel like you are in the ancient world. Click on the link in the description to download the game now, and use the gift code to get free resources for your civilization within the game. And by participating in in-game community events, new and current players will have the chance to win a round-trip ticket to Egypt. 95% of Egypt's population live within just a few kilometers of the Nile River and its delta, and 97% of the country's fresh water comes from it. But the Nile is reaching its limit. In 2019, Egyptian officials said they had around 570 cubic meters of water per person per year. Hydrologists consider a country to be facing water scarcity if supplies drop below 1,000 cubic meters per person annually. Egypt's figure is expected to drop to 500 cubic meters by 2025. This is considered absolute water scarcity. A large reason for this is Egypt's population is rising and rising fast. In less than 35 years, the population has doubled from 50 million to over 100 million. While its fertility rate has started to decline in recent years, it still sits at around 3.3 children per woman, and is ranked 36th in the world in population growth rate at 2.17% as of 2021, a significant number for a population of over 100 million people. The high fertility rate is deeply rooted in traditions, but some view children as a future source of financial support, and parents who only have girls often keep having more until they get a boy who can carry on the family name. This population rise has brought to light inefficiencies in agriculture water use, where more than 80% of Egypt's water supply is used. Many farmers continue to use irrigation canals, which can lose much of the water through evaporation, seepage through the canal walls, or by overfilling. And Egypt's agriculture industry is already lagging far behind Egypt's demand. Egypt is forced to import about half of its food consumed and is the world's largest wheat importer. This dependency on wheat imports was a contributor to the unrest experienced in Egypt in 2011 as part of the Arab Spring. Drought and fires experienced across Asia resulted in lower production, causing prices to rise. Egyptians already were spending nearly 40% of their salary on food, with 1/4 of it being on bread. For comparison, Americans only spend about 6% of their salary on food. This is the same situation Egypt faces today due to the Russia-Ukraine war. Egypt's dependency could worsen. Rising sea levels are threatening agricultural production in the Nile River Delta. Salty waters are moving further inland, making the water brackish, which can infiltrate the soil from below, making the land unsuitable for growing crops. But Egypt's problems aren't just having enough fresh water, but fresh, potable water. Overpopulation, combined with the Egyptian government struggling to enforce their environmental laws, has led to severe pollution. Around 350 factories are thought to be throwing waste into the Nile River. Agricultural chemicals are flowing into the Nile from farms, and many individuals are not disposing of their personal trash appropriately. Tens of thousands of deaths are attributed directly to water pollution in Egypt every year. As if Egypt wasn't having enough issues internally, Ethiopia completed a massive dam in July 2020 that could harm Egypt's water supply. The dam is sitting on the Blue Nile, which provides the majority of the water to the Nile proper. This dam will provide 65 million people in Ethiopia with clean electricity. But Egypt is concerned the filling of the reservoir will cause a temporary reduction of water and a permanent reduction from its sustainment by evaporation. This would hurt Egypt's ability to produce its own electricity with its Aswan High Dam, and of course, Egypt's ability to provide its population with enough water for agriculture and drinking. But the actual impact is unknown. Egypt is also concerned that if a severe drought occurs in Ethiopia, they may decide to keep the reservoir filled completely, cutting off Egypt's water. This is a long list of issues that Egypt is facing, but the country is working hard to overcome these challenges. To slow down the rising population, the Egyptian government in 2019 began an initiative called 2 is Enough, which encourages families to only have 2 children. The Social Solidarity Ministry, with local NGOs, has trained volunteers to make home visits and encourage people personally. Mothers are invited to seminars with preachers who say that Islam allows family planning, and doctors who answer questions. Billboards and TV ads promote smaller families. These billboards ask, what's better, to divide it by 5 or to divide it by 2, using the expense of raising a child as a deterrent. The Egyptian government is also building clinics to provide free contraceptives. This is mostly an Egyptian-funded project, but the United States is providing more than $25 million for the initiative. The government aims to reduce the current fertility rate to 2.4 by 2030. To solve the inefficient water use by farmers, the government is working to educate farmers on more efficient practices such as drip irrigation, and how it can be more cost-effective and timely. The government is also providing low-interest loans for those that cannot afford to cover the upfront investment. On top of this, they are upping penalizations for growing crops that is water-intensive, such as rice, to discourage farmers from growing it. To combat the rising sea levels, Egypt is building more fish farms, full of species that can survive in brackish or salty waters, like this $300 million fish and shrimp farm, created with the help of China in 2019, and is the largest fish farm in the Middle East and Africa. This farming can be expanded into other areas of Egypt with underground brackish water. Today, Egypt is working with the Netherlands, global experts when it comes to water management, on how they can improve their agriculture and aquaculture in brackish water so Egypt can better utilize this underground resource. During the last decades, the Netherlands has been and will continue to be increasingly confronted with issues that come with rising sea levels, to include rising inland salinity levels. This is because large parts of the country sit below or just barely above sea level. Egypt has a history of cooperation with the Netherlands when it comes to their water management. This relationship dates back to 1975, when Egypt requested Dutch expertise for its need to implement subsurface drainage on all agricultural land after the completion of the Aswan High Dam. Egypt is also investing in more innovative agricultural practices to increase food production while using water efficiently. One example of this is vegetables being irrigated with the same water used to raise fish. The added bonus is that the water is fertilized from the fish waste, becoming rich in organic nutrients, and this fertilized water increases plant production and decreases the need for additional fertilizers. To help with the water pollution, the government is working to help relocate factories further from the Nile and improve awareness of the issue with the help of religious leaders that are telling citizens pollution is unacceptable in Islam. Egypt is also expanding their wastewater capabilities, which included the construction of the largest agricultural wastewater treatment plant in the world in 2020. All of these solutions will hopefully help to ease Egypt's dependency on food exports. However, the Ethiopian dam is not something that can be solved internally. Egypt and Ethiopia, along with Sudan, are currently negotiating on how the situation should be resolved. But Ethiopia claims that increased storage in Ethiopia can actually provide a greater buffer to shortages in both Sudan and Egypt during years of future drought. To hedge against the possibility of these solutions not working, Egypt is building desalination plants. Egypt has plans to build 47 desalination plants in the next 5 years, with an additional 20 by 2050. This includes the world's largest desalination plant ever built. Combined, these plants have a price tag of around $27 billion. Hopefully, these initiatives will be enough to prevent disaster from striking the country. But there's more. Egypt has some ambitious plans that may do more than just keep the country's head above water. This includes changing the geography itself. Egypt wants to convert significant portions of their desert into farmland. This is the New Valley Project. It consisted of building a 240-kilometer canal to carry water from Lake Nasser into the desert, which would convert 2,340 square kilometers into agricultural land. But the bill for this project was $70 billion. It was started in 1997, but little was completed. Significant issues arose when the project started. The Western Desert's high saline levels and the presence of underground aquifers in the area are a major obstacle for irrigation. As the land is irrigated, the salt would mix with the aquifers and would reduce the access to potable water. Then, as large vehicles moved about to irrigate the land, their wheels would get stuck in the soil because of the high amounts of clay. Private investors funding the project pulled out, and the project was halted in 2005. The lakes that were filled eventually evaporated. But Egypt's current president says the project is being renewed and has set aside $400 million to jumpstart it. Egypt has another terraforming plan called the New Delta. Situated in the northwest near the Nile Delta, the plan is to convert approximately 4,100 square kilometers. The cost of this plan is $19 billion. On top of this, Egypt is building 100,000 greenhouses, which will meet the needs of 20 million people. These ambitious projects have water efficiency in mind. Building more arable land is pointless if there isn't enough water to go around. If these projects are successful, Egypt could shift the focus on food and water insecurity to modernizing its economy, and it could set Egypt on a path to becoming the clear power in the Middle East and North Africa. Neighbors often ranked as more powerful or equals to Egypt, such as Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar, have been gifted with oil. But the power that oil has given them probably won't last forever. Each are working hard to diversify their economies before the demand for oil drops. But a successful diversified economy post-oil is not guaranteed. Again, this video isn't to say Egypt is weak. Egypt owns the Suez Canal. That in itself gives a country leverage. Egypt already has a powerful military, but a military is useless without food and water. And its large population can be seen as an asset, though right now it's probably more of a liability, but this could change. For comparison to a well-known country, Egypt sits at around 100 million people, and Russia 145 million people. But by 2040, both Egypt and Russia are expected to have the same population at around 140 million. So what do you think? Is Egypt a rising power in the Middle East that is bound to top Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey in strength and influence? Or will Egypt's internal issues continue for the foreseeable future? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to all my YouTube members and Patreon subscribers, and thank you all for watching.